Welcome to Five Live Bears Podcast. We are glad you're back with us. Guess what, guys? Tonight we are again discussing Marvel's newest movie, Infinity War. So,
movie, more like boovie.
We thought things would be different.
So the real question is going to be: what is Ant-Man and Wasp going to do to this group?
they're going to time travel. They're not even going to bomb.
No. I mean,
I can tell you what's going to happen.
Black Panther separated us.
At the very end,
separated.
at the very end of the Ant-Man movie, somebody's going to go.
Oh yeah, that's.
It's going to be Wasp.
Anyways,
like that right there.
we're gonna talk more about Infinity Wars. So something though you need to know before we get started, we will be discussing spoilers. Spoilers.
Oh, wait a second. I got it. I'm sorry. I was busy.
John almost like electrocuted himself.
Yeah, I just killed myself.
I didn't have yours for a minute.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. We are talking about Infinity War, and we are going to talk spoilers, all right? We're going to talk about people who died. We're going to talk about people who didn't die. We're going to talk about Thanos. And we're going to spoil the spoil out of it just for you. But anyways.
Hey, first off, can we just mention the two big characters that were missing? That would be Korg and Meek. Where were they?
Well, Korg and Meek, I think, actually got on an escape pod, according to somebody. Valkyrie also.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did read that Valkyrie did get out.
Yeah.
That she is still alive.
Yeah, I'm thinking Hulk was helping them get away at the point, and that's where they were. But I was sad to not see a Korg confrontation with Thanos, where he was like, "Hey man,
Am I?
hey man,
You lead a revolution?
you believe it?" And Thanos is just like, that'd be
We
great.
were out on other planets trying to get a revolution started.
It'd be great if they had joined Thanos' team.
Mick.
Hey man, you got any read for anybody else? It's been a couple weeks now since half the population died in Infinity War, not in real life.
Yeah, I shouldn't be here.
Me neither.
But
Just me and Tim sitting down here.
but I wanted to talk. Yeah, just Brian and I. I wanted to talk a minute about your theater experience, about seeing the movie. How were the people around you? How did you feel during it? How are you feeling now, removed from it in a couple weeks? You still in love with it? You still want to poo-poo on it? You know, whatever it might be. But so tell me your theater reactions, and then tell me how you're feeling about it. Aaron, let's start how things were in Texas.
Bigger.
People were jazzed the whole movie, and then once people started disappearing, the theater just got real quiet. And then as soon as it showed Thanos sitting on the farm or whatever, and it faded to black, this lady yelled, "Oh, heck no!" But that's not what she said. And then it was just kind of this during the credits, everybody's waiting for the end credit scene. It was just kind of like people just murmuring, just real quiet murmuring, like murmur, and then people just kind of quietly left the theater
While you danced.
So, while I was dancing, I was like, "Yeah."
While Aaron danced on everyone's graves.
Aaron, and so now 2 to 3 weeks removed, Aaron, how are you feeling about Infinity Wars?
I cannot stop thinking about this movie. I have trouble sleeping. I think about how they're going to fix this and where they could go. And every day I have a new theory, and it's just been...
That part is true. Every day I get to work, Aaron's like, "Good morning. Let me tell you blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Stop trying to spoil the movie for me."
Sort of like the way I feel about Episode 8 of Star Wars.
Anyways.
Charlie doesn't think
Anyways, John, tell me about your theater experience.
Well, it was two individual experiences.
Yeah,
because,
tell me about both experiences.
because the Friday night experience was different, and the interesting thing about it was I haven't been to an event movie in a long time. Usually we'll go on a Saturday morning at like 9:00, try to get the earliest one, or we go to the now unsecret secret cinemas, according to you two.
I'm going to tell you about it here in just a
But
second.
Friday night we got there early because it was 5:00. Well, it was 5:00 showing, so we thought, well, we bought our tickets early, got in there, got a seat, and got our typical seat right up on the rail. We like to sit on that first rail so you can put your feet up
there. Mm-hmm.
And the crowd in there was kind of they laughed at the funny parts. They moaned at something. This is kind of your typical crowd. I sat by a 4-year-old the entire time, and he was awesome. He was actually the best person in the entire room to sit in. Came in with a Spider-Man hat on, his shirt, and he was sitting there, and him and his dad, and that kid didn't move the entire movie.
Did he weep openly when Spider-Man died?
No, I didn't quite think he quite understood everything that was going on, but definitely he was into it. I mean, it was the whole time. But the cool part about it is because it was, you have to wait to the very end of the credits to see the connecting scene, which is different from them, because usually they pack these things with one. They have the really cool credits, and then they have a cut scene. Yeah. Then they have all the boring credits and a cut scene at the end. But this time you had to wait to the whole thing, and I couldn't wait. I had to go bathroom because I just drank a Coke, so I had to climb the rail and go out. So I'm sitting there waiting, and got to notice there's some guys sitting across from me. They're talking. Well, as the credits continued to roll, because Carla stayed in to watch the whole thing, is this crowd, this line began to build and build and build and build. And finally, if you know anything about Preston Highway, the showcase on Preston, it was in Theater 8. Well, it went all the way down the wall and then turned the corner and went down like toward Theaters 13 or whatever it is on that side. So I'm sitting there watching. I thought, man, this is because this crowd, it was going to be the 8:40 showing,
right?
And that crowd would have been really the crowd I would have wanted to be in, because they're out there and they're like high fiving and they're like, man, and they're on their phones like, I can't wait to see this. Thanos is going to kick me, and they're just on and on and on. Whole crowds out there getting, there were a lot more jazz than the 5 o'clock crowd. Sunday morning crowd went to the noon showing, and it was more like you were at the opera. Everybody was kind of like, it was just more of this, except for this one dude that sat behind us. And usually I don't like it when people talk in theaters behind me, but apparently his wife had never even seen a superhero ever in her life.
Been in a coma for 15 years.
Because she was sitting there and she would say, you could hear she'd say, "What's that?" And then he would go into this like full Aaron comic book explanation.
We can see back
in issue 36.
And that's the way it was. So that wasn't too bad. And I think my thing was I was kind of more down on it on Sunday, because Susie went to see it with us, and immediately in the first scene, they break Loki's neck, and she was done for the rest of the movie. She was just like, she just kind of sit there staring at the screen the rest of the time. I was like, oh, we are in so much trouble here. And she hated it. She absolutely hated it. But the crowd was all right. It wasn't nothing to write home about.
And how are you feeling about it now? A couple weeks removed?
The movie?
Yeah.
I still, like I said last week when we were talking about it, I still give it about a 7. I don't have this overwhelming, like you three fanboys do, live and die by it. I'm kind of like I said last week, the Avenger movies in and of themselves have never been my favorite of the Marvel movies. I've liked them, but they've always been kind of middle of the road. I've always felt like they kind of had too much going on in them. I like the Captain America movies. The 3 Captain America movies are probably the best made. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is still one of my favorite. Thor is absolutely my favorite movie of all time. So them killing Loki in the first scene, that didn't really set well with me either, because I had a real, you get kind of this vested interest in that character, because he's been the bad guy
since the beginning.
Everything.
And probably more Marvel films than anybody else he's been the villain in.
Yeah. And I guess, okay, here's another gripe of mine. We talked gripes last week. But and I forgot about this till we got talking about this first scene. I don't believe that there's any way that Loki would have gone out by trying to stab Thanos in the neck with a knife. I don't think. I think he would have. I think he would have looked for that way out to either save Thor or whatever the case may be. I think he would look for that way out of doing it, because that didn't make sense. I can guide you back to Earth because you need somebody who knows what they're doing, and because I have experience. And then he tries to stab Thanos. I think that, along with what Charlie said last week about story being weak.
I guess in my opinion, I think Loki knew he was going to die. He knew that Thanos wasn't going to accept his help, and this was his last-ditch effort.
He did say he was son of Odin.
Yeah.
I see what John's saying, but also, yeah, I can see what you're saying, too, because when he said, what do you say, like, he failed spectacularly?
Yeah.
Oh, I have experience. He goes, oh, if you think failing is experience.
Right.
Yeah, goes, no, I call it experience.
Experience.
Charlie, your theater, you kind of talked about it a little bit.
So I get there about 20 minutes for the, well.
Which one did you go to?
I went to Preston Crossings, but here's the thing. Sunday, It was the 29th, Sunday before the Sunday after the movie came out. Was the 29th. I had to have my CPR certification done by the 30th. I go to work to do the CPR certification. It's all online. You have to. There's mannequins that are hooked up with the computer. Get there, and work's about 25 minutes away. I'm getting somewhere. It's about 25 minutes away from my house. Get to work. The internet's down, so I can't do it. So I'm like, well, that works real close to Baxter, so I'll go to Baxter. I get there. They had a 7:10 and a 7:45 and a 9:45. And it was like 10 till 7, so I had 20 minutes to get there. And I said, do you have any of the 7? I got 7 out. She's like, no. The only other Infinity War we've got is 9:40, and there's 4 seats left. So if you want it, you got to take it now. I said, well, no, I'm good, because I didn't want to hang out there for 3 hours waiting. So, I ended up going the Thursday after it came out and went to Preston Crossings. And I get there about 20 minutes before the movie starts, and I didn't think I could get a seat because it was packed. Like, the parking lot was packed. And I was able to get a seat. The theater, the whole front section was open except for me and like 4 other dorks that decided to sit up at the front. I wanted to get something to eat because I was hungry, and I wanted to get something preferably not just full of carbs, but that's all they had available. I would have, and I barely made it into the movie on time because every line was people complaining about how much movie theater food costs. And it's like, have you never been here before? Have you not been to a movie in the past 20 years? Mm-hmm. But yeah, the crowd was dead, completely dead. Nobody was excited, and it was like full of kids too. Like I was kind of mad when I walked in because it's just a bunch of kids like, oh, this is gonna be great, great. And by the time the movie started, there wasn't a peep in the theater. And like after, like when the credits started, right before the end credit scene, I would say 90% of the people left. It was just nobody said a word, nobody gasped. The only audible laughter in the theater is when people realized that the little person was playing a giant. That was the only time that and it was like, and that was about it.
And you're a couple weeks removed, Charlie. Are you still feeling pretty?
I'm still not happy with it.
Still dirty mashed potatoes for you.
It's still baked potato full of dead bugs.
All right.
Delivered by
Brian, 2 viewings for you.
2 viewings for me. So it was, we usually go on Thursday night if we can together. So that didn't happen. But I got to go with my dad, and so we ended up at Stony Brook at the 9:45 showing. We literally got there at 9:35, I think it was. We'd already bought our tickets, but so I was worried about us finding a seat. We walk in, we find a seat, and of course, as you all know, my dad's third favorite love behind my mom and me is popcorn. So we sat down. He was like, "Well, we're not going to eat. We won't get any popcorn." And I was just like, "Okay, I'm feeling like we're going to have to get popcorn here." But he's like, and then we waited like literally 5 minutes for the movie. He's like, "Well, you know what? Maybe some popcorn ought to be good. Let me go get it." And then as I texted in the group chat, mine was not people complaining about the popcorn food. Mine was complaining about people that had no freaking clue what they wanted to eat. I'm like, either get popcorn, a hot dog, or get that out of the way. Okay, that's where we're at. Yeah.
How about the White Castles?
There was no White Castles.
He was
on
Brook.
Oh, okay.
So finally get that all figured out, get back, and then not knowing that we were going to have 30 minutes of credits or previews.
Yeah.
And so we got through that. My crowd on Thursday night was awesome. I mean, when Cap walked out in the shadows, people were like, "Oh my beep!" I mean, it just went on. It was great. So when the movie ended, a lot of people were like I guess already knew about the end scene. So as the credits are rolling, they're like, "You gotta wait. It's Captain Marvel. She's gonna be there. You gotta wait. It's Captain Marvel." And I'm like,
or a 1990s pager with her logo on it.
Right. And I'm like, this thing hasn't been out, but for it's Thursday night. It's 9:45. What, 2.5 hours?
That's when I got the spoilers.
And somebody already spoiled it from 7 or whatever. So
that's not my fault.
Yeah. And then
it is not my fault.
But then we went
on radio silence. I wasn't.
Then Jen and I went to Secret Cinemas on Friday night, and that place was an utter zoo. I mean, it was packed. I think they oversold the theater. It was there was no excitement at all. And once it was over with, it was, like I said, the guy who sat beside me, he felt it just felt the whole time he was inconvenienced by watching it. So you could tell somebody dragged him there he didn't want to be there.
Was it me?
I almost thought, like, I kind of was like, is this Charlie? But I was like, no, he didn't want to come see it.
And how are you feeling now? Three weeks removed.
It's still one of my favorite movies. I mean, like I said, there was things in it that
This guy knows
could
what's
be,
up.
but it was awesome.
And I'll wrap it up real quick, and then we'll
about Aaron?
probably Aaron.
They're
went
talking.
first.
Okay, I must
You
be
went
what I
first.
missed.
And
Everything's bigger in Texas.
then we'll take a break.
All right.
I went and saw the movie twice. I went Thursday with a coworker to an early showing at now not Secret Cinemas. Thanks,
You're welcome.
Charlie. Thursday night, usually I can go up and get a ticket anytime I want. Like I could walk into it. I got there at 5:30 for the 7:00 show, and it was already sold out. And I was like, "What?" And so she's like, "We've got a 7:10 showing, which had not been online, not anywhere." I was like, "It's the 3D show." And she's like, "No, we've got a 7:10." So I was like, "Okay." So I got the 7:10 showing. So since the 7:10 wasn't advertised, there was like 10 people in the theater. So that was pretty sweet. So it was like 10 of us in the theater, and it was just kind of like a nice viewing. People were excited, but they weren't like screaming and hollering. But the best part of that night was about 2 rows in front of me when Thanos stabs Iron Man. This guy almost lost it. He was just like, no.
That was me.
He was like, so that was
And
great.
I was like, oh, look, he got his comeuppance.
But then Friday, I went with the fam. I went with beautiful Brent and his girlfriend and handsome Brad. And we went to the 7:00 show or whatever. It was insane. It was packed all the way. I mean, the movie theater was pretty much filled. In behind us is this guy that just is one of those people that whatever he thinks comes out of his mouth. Like we're sitting there and it's the commercials and it's like, what's the 2 movies involving volcanoes from 1995, And as soon as they pop on the screen, he's got to go, oh, Dante's Peak and Volcano. Like he's got to read it out loud. Oh, Jim Belushi, Turner and Hooch. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
So me in the 90s is what you're saying.
But then this family comes in behind us. It was like 3 adults and 2 children ages like 4 and 5, and they talked the whole entire movie.
About the movie?
No,
Okay.
no. They just, the dad was into it. Anytime anything happened in the movie that was remotely exciting, I got to move the microphone away. This guy was like, "Oh, dog, no way! Spider-Man's got extra arms." It was every time.
The way you're describing it, he sounds special.
No. He wasn't
This
special.
is the way you're describing it. I'm imagining this. He wasn't the
It's
dad.
the body
No,
he was
movements.
the brother
It's the- yeah.
and the dad.
He was like
Oh my
he was the
gosh.
older Hispanic guy, and he was just like,
Taking away everything.
everything.
He was just excited.
He was excited, and his kids wouldn't shut up. And then anytime they had to get something out of like a bag of popcorn, it's like they were digging for 20 minutes in the bag of.
I thought you said get anything they had to get out of the cooler.
Did handsome Brad turn around and punch the seat?
No. Handsome Brad was a little bit further away. He couldn't hear them. All he could hear was the guy behind us that had to say everything that was going on the scene. Like at that point, that guy, when Thor's getting his new weapon created, and he's like, "What's this one called?" And the guy behind us is going, Mjolnir. And finally, the guy on the screen goes, "It's Stormbreaker," and the guy's going, Mjolnir. Stormbreaker. I was just like, shut up. And then the part where they say a line about a booty call in there. Well, all of a sudden, the 4 and 5-year-old girls think that's hilarious, and they're like, "Ha ha ha, booty call," for like the next 2 or 3 minutes. Booty call. Just like, oh my god. And then when Groot first pops up and says, "I am Groot," they had to say, "I am Groot" for the next 5 minutes to each other. "I am Groot. I'm Groot." Then all of a sudden, around 11 o'clock, it's like one of them's like, "I'm tired," and the mom's just like, "Shut up and lay down."
She's up there on that nasty floor behind y'all laid out.
Right now. And then one of them starts crying, and then suddenly, as if that wasn't enough, all of a sudden the guy next to Brad, all of a sudden near the end of the film, just starts like talking out loud, and I'm just like, what is going on in this theater? It was absolute insanity. Never had an experience like that at Secret Cinemas until Charlie admitted and told everybody where it was on a different podcast. So
And I've told everybody in person too.
You have
Like
crushed.
everybody at work knows where Secret Cinemas is.
do you have a friend that gets
Why?
easily excited
Yes.
about everything?
That was
'Cause he
Tony.
sat right behind me.
We call him
Yo,
excited.
dog! Did you see that?
Oh no!
Oh my god! I am not exaggerating. I am not exaggerating. That was how that dude acted.
I paid a guy $20 to just repeat everything he saw on the screen.
The Sunday
Storm
afternoon crowd
breaker.
I was with got more excited about the Danny Glover walkthrough of the Millennium Falcon than they actually did the
Donald Glover.
Danny
Glover's too old for that.
Donald Glover. Sorry.
No, I was laughing.
They
made a joke
no, literally
about
they
it.
did, and then the solo trailer got more love than I think the whole.
The thing about
Movie did.
Keystone was there was literally 3 previews. That was it. I mean, there
Oh,
was
gosh,
no long
Preston
wait.
had.
It was like if you were late for the previews, buddy, you were missing the beginning of the film. So I think that helped. So I didn't have to wait forever. But that's what you get. Oh man, we're going hardcore right now.
Welcome to ECW.
Welcome. Back to the Five Line Bears podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for taking a quick break with us. We are back discussing Infinity Wars just a little bit more. We decided for the second half here, we really want to dive into Thanos. It was pretty much a consensus in the first podcast that everybody liked Thanos. Everybody's a big fan of Josh Brolin, thought he really did a great job, and that the character itself was just really towered above everybody else. But there were some disagreements on his motives, if there could have been better motives, and so let's jump into that. John, you and Charlie both talked about you weren't a fan of his motive. That you guys referred to it as eco-terrorism or something like that. So talk about that a little bit. Talk about your feelings about Thanos and the direction he was coming from.
John, I'll let you start.
Well, my thing about it is that, and I said this on the last podcast, is that I am growing. And I don't mean to sound political because I don't like to be political. I'm not political.
Not on here, no.
No, not on here. But because we try to stray away from that on here. We try to just make this something light and don't want to be all, oh my gosh, all the time about everything. But I feel that the one part about the movie that bothered me the most was, and I think it cheapened Thanos. And I know Aaron last week discussed about Mistress Death and the balance and all this type of stuff, but they didn't bring that part in, which is if they had added that part about Mistress Death into it, and his trying to, I guess, quote unquote, impress her by doing this, then it would have made more sense to me. That would have been something that could have driven the plot a little bit longer than this. But I felt that what it did was, in my view, was it took this cosmic villain of such epic proportions and dumbed him down to environmental awareness. And that's the problem I had with it. It's like, oh, come on. Do we really have to have this now? Do we have to have this? Even though he didn't come out and just say, oh, you all are ruining your water and I'm going to destroy half of Earth's population because of that. It just kind of had that underlying. Well, I'm killing half the population of the universe
to save the universe
to save it, because he makes a point, because when Gamora's talking to him about her planet, she says, you killed half of it. He says, and they have clear skies, and
and no one's going to bed hungry.
Yeah, or whatever he said. And I was kind of like, oh, come on, man. You telling me that the most powerful being in the known universe boils everything down to eco-terrorism?
Well, they made a malevolent character benevolent, and even though he killed off our heroes, in his mind he was doing the right thing. And it wasn't even about balance. It was about doing what's best for everybody when they don't see that that's what's best for them. And it was almost like it was a Greenpeace commercial. I mean, this guy just wants to kill everybody. It's not that, and like,
but it cost him everything. That's what the
it cost him everything. That's the thing, is that shouldn't be the character.
But see,
I know it's about sacrifice, but my thing is that just that like the fact that he cried when he killed Gamora, and the fact that he wouldn't let her look to watch her entire race be murdered. He made her look at him and play with a knife. Those are things that just didn't need to be there. He should. I mean, he had a lot of. I'm trying to think of a way to put this. He had a lot of really cool bad A moments, but then his motive is just to help us all.
But see, so
he's just helping us all. He's just got the wrong. His heart's not in the right place. Maybe he should pray about it for a while.
In my mind, never when I was watching it did it pop into my mind that this was trying to make a political statement. And maybe just because I was fanboying and enjoying the film, like to me, I thought it was a refreshing take on a villain, that you have this villain that doesn't see himself as a villain. He sees himself as something that is necessary to save the universe. In his mind, he is correcting what needs to be corrected in order for everything else to survive. So, like, I feel like that's what was so great about him, was that it gave him more than just, oh, I'm just this brute bad guy out to destroy everything. Because in his mind, he is saving the planet. And to me, this was Thanos' movie, and the Avengers were the bad guys. That's what it was like. It was like Thanos was trying to save everybody, and the Avengers were the bad guys.
Well, when I say I didn't care for the environmental message, or didn't think that much of it. To me, it went through my mind more like lightning. It wasn't something that I dwelled on the entire movie.
Sure.
It was just kind of like he said that, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I got you. You had to get that in. And then I went on about it. It was like, okay, because you're just used to hearing that stuff in movies anymore, regardless of what you're watching.
I just realized it was the Funny or Die presents Captain Planet.
That's what I was
With Don
thinking about.
Cheadle.
That was what I was
Yeah, it was.
Trees, dust.
But
Aaron, go ahead, John.
with what Charlie's saying though about the Gamora scene on her planet, where he shields her from watching her family be killed, and then his crying when he's getting ready to throw her off into the soul stone sacrificial thing. I took it a different way, and I thought I liked those scenes. I thought those scenes were good because it put more of another layer or a complexity to the character than you have just somebody who's just out to smash and to destroy. It kind of because Gamora was even like, yeah, see, you can't. There's nothing. The universe has judged you, and you're found wanting, basically.
Yeah. The universe has judged you, and I'm too stupid to realize you're ready to kill me.
He never thought he loved her. That's the point of it. He did. He didn't realize the sacrifice. To me, it was, even though Thanos knew or felt this is what he had to do, I don't think he really ever thought it was going to, like, the only thing apparently he ever loved in the universe was Gamora. And I don't think he ever thought it would cost him her. And then that was the scene, like, after he snaps his fingers, and there she is as a child. So that was, like, again, a flashback to that precious moment when he found her of, like,
and I thought
did you do it? How much did it cost you? And he's like, everything.
It cost me everything. Aaron, go ahead. You're wanting to jump in.
I was about to say that's not a flashback. That's inside the Soul Stone. But go on.
But I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm not up
but
on that,
okay.
Aaron.
Well, I could punch it up, but I can't get to my iPad.
Aaron, jump in just real quick. Your thoughts on that? I know John wants to jump into. Aaron, real quick, your thoughts just on his motives.
I almost feel like they are. I mean, he's always been a cool character in the comic books, but I almost feel like they're trying to really, really make you like him because they have other plans for him down the road. Like, there's been talks of an Eternals movie, so I don't know if that'll be about him, about what happened to Titan and stuff. I don't know, but I really liked him. I really liked his. I didn't have a problem with his motivations. Although there's been several articles about, if he actually carried out his plan, he'd have to do it again in 50 years or 100 years or whatever, then have to keep doing it over and over and over and over.
I think
a snap of the fingers, and half of y'all's gonna die.
I think some of the best villains in the history of TV and movies are the villains that almost make you pull for them. And there are times where you're kind of pulling for Thanos, like, yeah, I know you're trying to wipe out all of humanity or half of humanity, but like you're presenting it, and you're. And it's not that I agree, oh, well, we really need to kill half of humanity. but he's doing
Or
it.
killed him.
Killed him. He's doing it though, and like John said, in such this logical manner that it's like he's being like the terrible leader that is going to do something atrocious, and he's convincing everybody to go along with it.
Well, and the more you watch it, and it just occurred to me the second time I was watching it, is that out of everybody in these movies, he's the most sane of everybody. All these characters are all broke, emotionally, or
Yeah.
Well, but
crushed,
for me,
or
it was
shattered,
that
or
the part of Thanos to me was he was the first one that showed vulnerability. In that, again, like Hela in Ragnarok, I mean, she didn't care about anybody other than death, right? Here he was crying over Gamora, and it was like, it's just like to me about, like you talk about Darth Vader, right? Like the first couple, episodes 4, everybody's fearful of Darth Vader. I mean, he just walks up and chokes you. But yet, as he opens himself up to Luke and shows this vulnerability, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, there's more to the character there. That's what I felt about Thanos. It was like, again, to your point, all logical, very thing, what he's trying to do, but yet I got to give up what's most precious to me.
I never, in the 2 times I watched it, I never felt myself wanting to root for him. But it was the first time in any of these movies that I had watched in a very long time to where, especially at the end where Scarlet Witch is trying to pull the Soul Stone, or not Soul Stone, the Mind Stone out of Vision, and she's trying to hold him back. It's the first time in a long time with a character, with a bad guy, that I really felt in a movie theater got into it so much to where I was like, lady, you got to stop this guy because he's going to destroy half the known universe if you don't. And it wasn't that you're necessarily rooting for him, but you really felt that he was this unstoppable force, that there was nothing that you felt so helpless as a watcher of the movie, putting yourself in it, because there was nothing they could do.
Right.
Because
you're not pulling for him, but you realize he's unstoppable.
it's destiny.
It's going to happen.
There's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen.
The end game now, Tony.
And even I called that a couple weeks ago when he pounds Steve Rogers in the face. He just, bam! But I knew my thing about it was when at the very beginning of the movie when he just beats the fire out of the Hulk.
Yeah,
just crushes him. I thought, man,
let him have his fun.
This is a serious contender here because there's nobody been able to stand up
Right.
And
like that.
one of the things I really liked about that scene was that they didn't try to make it a fancy fighting style. He was just beating him up.
Yeah.
He was just beating the crap out of him. It wasn't
ground pound.
It was just a
it
raw.
wasn't MMA. It was just I'm going to punch you till you stop moving.
It was a raw. It was the 2 most powerful beings in the universe beating on each other.
It was just cool when he
And-
connects that first punch, and the Hulk's kind of just like,
yeah.
like ow, that actually hurt. Yeah. All right, so somebody put a bow on the Thanos talk. Aaron, this is your man.
So here's one of the reasons I really liked how the movie ended. It's kind of this dark ending where, what do we do now? It's really important to make your heroes go through the darkness before they can have this great victory. Because the darker it gets, then the more you're going to be rooting for them. In the next movie, when Captain America gets his shield back and Bruce hulks out and they have that Avengers Assemble moment, it's going to be awesome. But to get there, you really had to have this, this dark journey. So I thought that was really good.
So he was the villain to pull it. You have to have this dark of a villain to pull out a bright spot. Yeah. So jumping from there,
I have one more quick
sure,
question.
Sure.
So the scene where this is off topic, but it's about the movie. So the scene where Shuri is trying to get the Mind Stone out of Vision's forehead, and she's like, "I'm do all this work." Would you call that Minecraft? Continue.
Thanks. So going into this movie, I
knew that joke was going to fall flat. I just had to make it. I've been thinking about it for 10 minutes.
I was genuinely
working that way.
expecting a death of like a major Avenger, like either Captain America, Iron Man, or Peter Quill, or somebody like that. And instead, we ended up with the major deaths being the characters that have made up the secondary movies, for lack of better words. Your Spider-Man, your Doctor Strange, your Black Panther, your Guardians of the Galaxy. Charlie, you said it when you got spoiled that felt cheap for you because they're going to come back.
Right. I didn't mention that in the last podcast, but don't kill off a character 2 months after you tell me that you're going to have sequels to their freaking movies. That's stupid.
I still
And
felt.
And I had a guy at work tell me, well,
Yeah.
they haven't released what movies are coming out. They're just saying what films are going to be. They're going to be coming out on what days. They're not revealing. I'm like, no, dude, they really have. Well, I looked at Disney's website and they didn't have that on there.
Imagine
And if you're
yeah.
listening to this, Alan, I'm not making fun of you. It's just that was the conversation.
Well,
we had.
imagine
Go ahead,
what an impact this movie would have had if this had been the very final movie of all the phases.
right.
You know, I'd be okay with that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. That's the impact. Imagine what the impact would have been if that had been that way. To where, okay, Marvel had announced, okay, we're not going to bring back the Guardians of the Galaxy in their present form.
Yeah.
Avengers, we'll probably have some Avengers, but it's going to be a different team of Avengers. We're going to move into the Captain Marvel phases, the more
Secret
space,
Wars and all
sex,
that,
those type phases. So everybody for this movie, say your goodbyes, and that would have been it. Maybe you could have brought back Spider-Man because they want to do some more of that. Maybe Doctor Strange finds a way back from the ethereal plane and comes back.
I get the feeling of being upset because they're going to come back. I still felt like their deaths were effective. Like I felt like it was effectively done. Like when Bucky fades away first, people in the audience in my crowd were just like, no.
That was absolutely one of the creepiest 10 to 11 minutes of a movie, of any movie I've ever seen. I mean, it just gave you the willies because there's no music. It's just this,
and
everybody's just disappearing.
and you don't know who's going to be next. 5 minutes left. Aaron, real quick, tell us like a brief, really, really brief, what each stone can do.
What each stone could do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, there's time, manipulates time. Power kind of powers the other gems. Reality, he can make whatever he wants to happen. It's a lot of illusions.
Like bubble guns.
Bubble guns, and which ones do I say?
Mind.
Time, power, mind. He could connect with any mind in the universe.
Soul.
The soul gem is kind of vampiric. It can absorb other souls. And then which one am I missing?
What's the blue one?
Space.
Space. He can be anywhere in the universe he wants at any
So
time.
those are the power stones that make up the Infinity Stones that make Infinity Gauntlet. If you could have one Infinity Stone and its power, let's wrap up the show with which Infinity Stone you would have and why. John.
Brian.
Time.
Any reason in particular?
It's time. You can go do anything you want. Go
Yeah.
relive anything in history. See the future. I mean, to me, it would be the best.
Charlie.
Time also. I've made a lot of really bad mistakes in my life. I'd like to change those.
Aaron.
I'll be different. I'll go reality. Just make reality whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, it's good stuff. John.
Bubbles.
Space.
Any reason in particular?
Because that way I wouldn't have to drive the 18 hours of Disney World every other year. You just drop Carla through a hole in the ground. She'd be there, be like, all right, I'll come get you in a week because I'm not a Disney guy.
Whatever. You love Disney when you go.
It's
Recency
all right.
bias.
If it was in Kentucky, I think you'd like it more. So you'd have to drive all the way out.
Yeah, I don't want to get on Disney World tonight.
I guess I want to say time also. I always think about my mistakes and the things, I'm one of those people that have anxiety issues and will sit there about to go to sleep and pop in my mind. Remember that one time when you were really just the biggest idiot in the world?
If I had the time stone, I'd spend most time going back and slapping myself. They just wanted me. But remember, you can't. The time stone is a very dangerous thing. I mean, that's like Doctor Strange in his movie. Mm-hmm. You can't mess with the fabric of reality, and that's what they do with the time stone.
Oh, can you?
Real quick though, on Captain Marvel, my thoughts on it was
yes.
that I think because of the Wonder Woman movie doing so well, I think Marvel felt they had to write her in as the game changer. Like I think before they saw how well Wonder Woman did,
It's an interesting thought.
I don't think the 10 years has been building up for Captain Marvel. I just don't see that as the.
Do you think it's anything you can do? I can do better.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
though,
let-
like,
they've totally obliterated DC,
Aaron-
and I'm just
Aaron,
like,
go
it's
ahead.
another like, boom, we're going to hit you.
Well, like I think I've said in the past, there's always one of two people who stops Thanos. It's either Captain Marvel or Adam Warlock, but it's the other Captain Marvel, her like predecessor.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
I
weird
Law.
that it's going to be Carol Danvers.
Yeah,
So-
I still thought I thought maybe I could see him building toward Adam Warlock just because
He's still going to
but
come around eventually. In the
I
dark.
still would. I was
Yeah.
still am just waiting for that moment of Silver Surfer.
Let me just say this
real.
real quick, and we'll end. John brought this up in Bear Chat, and I agree with it. Marvel has done a fantastic job of bringing 10 years worth of movies, setting this all up, weaving it all together to bring this final piece of a movie. Like going back and watching all of the movies, you said it, like it was an incredible job setting all of this up.
Well, just there isn't hardly anybody ever who's put maybe Lucasfilm
Yeah.
who has had such a patience on their end game. I mean, to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and Iron Man did well, so now we're going to do this, and then in the very Captain America, you see the Tesseract, and to say, all right, we're not going to come to the logical conclusion of all this for 8 years,
Right.
and to stick with the plan. I mean, that's incredible amount of patience and a lot of just the ability to just hold yourself back
To
and
get
not,
these
and not-
actors on
and
board,
not
to
shove
get
things forward. Which is what's something that DC has done. I mean, DC just shoved it out there. Said, here's what we're going to do, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, and I think that once they put a bow on the Infinity, which is the next Avengers movie, before they launch into the next Marvel whatever, I think that series of movies is going to be one of the all-time great, I don't know, collections to have, just to be able to go from start to finish. But so that's about it. Anybody have any closing thoughts? Aaron, anything you want to say real quick?
I can't wait till next May.
All right. So thank you for watching or listening. Catch us, Charlie. Where can they find us?
They can find us on YouTube. They can find us on Apple Podcasts. They can find us on Google Play, and they can find us on SoundCloud. And if you're having a hard time finding us on Facebook, just follow the page and follow the links to them there.
Thanks
Words.
thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
See you later, players.
Sorry, Brent.
Aaron.
That ant was playing the drums.